the printing press in Europe, damn near in the 1700s, where was all these motherfucking books they talking about? What was they being made on? I mean, I'm just asking that question. It take a press to make books. It take, you know what I'm saying? So it wasn't a widely known, and that's why when you come back with supposedly the oldest shit of the Bible and shit, it's always a fragment of some shit. You know, it ain't even a whole goddamn scroll. It's some shit like this with, you know, tore up on the edges and shit.
But see, Seti, you talked that about.
And that's the gentleman you just saw in the video, Seti. He's a general in the conscious movement. He's one of the leaders in the conscious movement and one of the top leading scholars. He calls himself a scholar, but he was making some statements about the printing press in the 1700s, Gutenberg, and talking about various manuscripts when we're dealing with biblical manuscripts. And he said every time they do find something, it's a piece, it's a little fragment of something, and the ends of it are messed up. I guess he's describing maybe one P52 or something like that, one of those smaller portions, older portions of John from back in the beginning of the 2nd century. But in all actuality, before the printing press, he was wrong about the years. It wasn't the 1700s. It was in the 1450s that Gutenberg invented the printing press. But manuscripts and books and codexes have always been around. They've been around for thousands of years. But what we had were handwritten copies. And later on, we had them, they were back on the papyrus back in the days. And later on, they were on vellum, which is animal skin. But the majority of manuscripts were hand copied before the printing press. This is why books were so expensive, or scrolls. But when he started criticizing manuscripts and talking about the Bible, I guess he don't know anything about the DSS, or what we call the Dead Sea Scrolls. And the book of Isaiah alone was about 14 feet long. That's the superstar of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Isaiah manuscript, and it comes about 996 years. It's almost 1,000 years older than the Masoretic, or the text that the King James translators used. Oftentimes, when you find people like this, they don't have a working understanding when they start making certain statements, and clearly Seti don't. Even if you go back to China, if you're a scholar and you read anything, by far, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but if you're a scholar, you're going to understand the Diamond Sutra. The Diamond Sutra from 868, and that was made on a printing press. The Asians had that. That's in China. They found that in a cave, I believe, in the 1900s. I'm just going off of memory. I don't have any notes, but y'all Google that Diamond Sutra. 868. And when we start dealing with Gutenberg and the Gutenberg press, it was in the 1400s. But there's always been manuscripts. There's always been books. They have copyists, and that's how come we have such a large variety of different types of manuscripts coming from the ancient days. When we start dealing with the New Testament, some people were professional copyists. They didn't have a Xerox copying machine. People would sit there in a scriptorium, and they would be a class full of people, and they would read from a manuscript. Someone would read, and they would sit there and they would write. So we have copies that have errors or misspellings or double writing. For God so loved the world, and then the person might have just started talking, and then they'll write it again. So we have manuscripts with double writings on them and stuff like that. But that's when you begin to understand manuscript evidence in the history of the text coming down. But a problem that I have with the conscious community is when we bring you evidence, when you make certain statements, they would make statements to us as believers, such as the white man gave us the Bible. And when we prove to y'all that the oldest churches, some of the oldest churches on the face of the earth was in Ethiopia, and that 1,000 years before slavery, Christianity was on the continent in the form of seminaries in Egypt and churches, and we had black monks, African monks, and when we bring that out to them, instead of adjusting their statements, they'll keep on with the statement, and they'll go on to somebody else that doesn't know any better, and they'll keep repeating the same old thing. So I'm going to do a series of questions and answers, Christian lessons, and it's going to explain certain things about that. And then they'll use certain terminology on us. They'll start using cognitive dissonance and Stockholm syndrome, excuse me, and all this other stuff, when in all actuality, they don't face facts when it comes to certain things. We present facts to them, and they'll go against those facts. That's blind faith. There's a lot of blind faith in the conscious community. They pick up and they run with what Ray Hagen say. And he's another one, Pastor Ray Hagen. We're gonna do a video on that, Church Without Jesus. He's the pastor of the conscious community, but there's a lot of things that they're doing and saying in the conscious community that makes no sense. The Bible is here to control us. For 1,000 years, it was against the law to have the Bible. Slaves weren't taught to read. There's a lot of things that they say it goes against the evidence. And then when you start pinning them in the corner, and I urge believers, when y'all get up into those chat rooms, when you're on Facebook, when people make comments, question them, where did you get this from? A lot of times they'll start saying, like Seti is saying some good stuff in that video on Sinetta when he came. He's from New York, he's from Detroit, but he came down to Harlem. He's in Harlem often talking to Sinetta, if they're on good terms and they're recording videos or whatever. But he would make statements about manuscripts. Show me the manuscript. Well, when we start dealing with manuscripts, like I said, later on, they were written on vellum, but in the beginning, they were just written on paper. That the papyrus comes from the Nile River in Egypt, and papers decay. And we had books, and we have codexes or books that we found, like the Nag Hammadi writings, 1945. These are Gnostic Gospels in Egypt. Because the sand is dry and because of the climate, those books were preserved, or those manuscripts were preserved. But in all actuality, paper decays. Paper decay. So most of history, when we start dealing with writings, come from copies of copies of copies. The thing that we brag about is we have more copies of the New Testament than any other book coming out of antiquity. That is a known fact among all scholars on the face of the earth. That's a known fact. Conscious community, they're trying to deny that fact, but the mere fact you start speaking about Alexander the Great and Socrates, Aristotle, a lot of those writings that we have about them are from other people that come years later. And we don't deny it. Historians accept it as this is good evidence that Alexander did exist. This is good evidence that Socrates did exist. But when it comes to scripture, for some reason, these people are acting totally crazy. Check out that new video. I'm working on something. I may actually get that one out today. Also on Ray Hagen, Church Without Jesus. I'm doing the who's who in the conscious community for Christians and kind of a general introduction. Ray Hagen used to be a pastor, and now he has African Village. In all actuality, he's still having 3 services. He's still collecting an offering. He's still getting up there every sermon and preaching. We're doing what we would call preaching, and he's one of the more articulate of the leaders in the conscious community. And he said Jesus don't exist, Adam and Eve didn't exist, nobody in the Bible existed, but yet he's still using the Bible to teach, to preach, to manipulate, to use. However you want to do it, he's doing it. As well as this other pastor that came on, he's coming out, he came to some truth. When you pin them down, the truth that they're coming to is not any truth at all. It's in all actuality is lies. I want to urge y'all to join that Sunday seminary. We're going to be doing a lot of this stuff. We're going to be discussing a lot of this far as the various councils and how a lot of people have it twisted. I'm going to be slicing and giving y'all portions of different people in the conscious community and what they're teaching and what they're talking about. Often, a lot of what you hear from Seti, I can't play too much because he's, as one of the leaders in the conscious community, he had one of the foulest mouths. So, there's a lot of MF and this and that he used, but he's supposed to be such a scholar on a high spiritual plane and his true self and existence. We don't need no man and book to lead us into anything, and all this mumble jumble. I'm going to play another little piece. They don't believe, and I'm going to explain certain things what the conscious community believes and teaches, and I'm going to let y'all hear it from their own mouth by way of certain portions of video. But if y'all like what you heard, subscribe, and y'all please check out Eric Mason, Pastor Eric Mason. There's other people that's dealing with this thing, and I want to expose y'all to that. If y'all dealing with the Israelites or Vocab Malone, Jude 3 Project, Sister Lisa Fields, Andrew Coleman, he writes articles on different blogs, and he have a true podcast, I believe it was. I was supposed to get on there with him, but you know, a lot of things happened. We couldn't really connect. But shout out to them. Y'all check out Pastor Eric Mason, Lisa Fields, and so many others that's doing this. And like I said, I urge y'all to get in videos, and when y'all get on those videos, if you can make a video, go on different people's videos and comment. You'll see people posting certain things on Facebook. Y'all go ahead and comment. The church is outside of the walls. The church right now, there's a witness that has to be on the internet. There's a witness that has to be in the conscious community, have to be in these streets, and we have to give an answer. You've been watching Berean TV. Thanks for watching.